society, giving our history a great future. Become a member today.
Walking into the building for the first time after the shooting, it was crippling, but it had to be preserved.
In response to the Pulse nightclub shooting that affected the LGBTQ community, Barbara Poma, owner of Pulse, founded the One Pulse Foundation to honor Pulse victims and survivors.
If you're an ally of this community, speak out. There are more of us together than apart. It is the power of love in its rawest form.
Join the fight for LGBTQ acceptance. Learn how at lovehasnolabels.com. Brought to you by Love Has No Labels and the Ad Council.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting a Teenager. Learning the lingo.
Jelly. Jelly adjective. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same. Visit adoptuskids.org, brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
At Odyssey, we help protect this planet we all share through our One Thing sustainability initiatives. We donate $1 million of media every year to local environmental nonprofit organizations. And this month, our Odyssey teams will be out in our local communities cleaning up, planting trees, and more. When we each do one thing, it becomes 100, 1,000, a million things for our planet. What's your one thing? For more, download the free Odyssey app or go to odyssey.com/onething.
At Odyssey, to create a diverse and inclusive workforce, we encourage local organizations to refer qualified applicants. Simply email equalemployment@odyssey.com to be notified of all open positions. And we invite our listeners to visit odyssey.com/careers to view a listing of all job openings.
You're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM in HD1 San Francisco, on Odyssey Sports Station. Always live on the free Odyssey app, Twitch, and YouTube. Powered by First NorCal Credit Union.
Good morning, area.
It's time to wake up. It's 5, and we're live.
Oh, is this thing on? I don't care. I want him to hear.
This is the Pregame Show, your early morning shot of sports on 95.7 The Game.
Come on!
Oh! There's nothing like it. You never know what to expect with the NFL draft. And that is what makes it so damn fun to watch. Detroit yesterday was on fire. Did I see that right? 150,000 people there? 150,000 people to watch.
I saw 275,000.
Oh my God. That's even more than I thought.
Which is even more ridiculous.
That, just to see a hobbled and freshly cut, surgically, I should say, pause, Roger Goodell, who had spinal surgery or something crazy, get up there and read a couple guys' names. Just to see that. But again, it's its own spectacle now. They put the production, you got the Mel Kipers out there, you got the Daniel Jeremiahs, Mike Greenberg, Rich Eisen, everyone's out there, everyone's talking. You got former pros there. I thought Detroit, that was awesome. That whole scene was awesome. This was the most in-depth coverage I've seen of a first round of the NFL draft ever. I had Bill Belichick breaking everything down with Pat McAfee. That was awesome to hear one of the greatest, if not the greatest head coach in the history of the sport talking about these guys. He was so amped to talk prospects. And there's just no one that loves football more than Bill Belichick. So to hear him just with a smile on his face too, like the real Bill Belichick, is what I saw last night. I saw Nick Saban talking about a lot of his guys getting drafted from Alabama and talking about the transition from the college game to the pros. A guy that obviously did that as well. Started his career out in the pros, went to college, back to the pros, and back to college again. But he was on the College Game Day panel there. I think he's going to be doing that for ESPN next season as well when college football begins again. But welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. The NFL draft will break down everything that happened, specifically for the 49ers, who drafted Florida wide receiver Ricky, don't call him Pearsall, Pearsall. It's Pear. So I thought it was Pear first, but it's Pearsall out of Florida with the 31st overall pick. So Ayuk still here. Deebo Samuel still here. But we'll see if one of those guys do indeed gets traded, because Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch did not rule out the possibility. They're open for business still. But according to Michael Silver, San Francisco Chronicle covers the team, the 49ers, according to his sources, are now more likely to trade Deebo than Brandon Ayuk. Very interesting. Ricky Pearsall, by the way, for those of you who don't know who he is, again, Florida Gator, started out his career as a teammate of Brandon Ayuk, 2019 through 2021, obviously with Herm Edwards, Antonio Pierce on that staff, head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. Then he transferred over to Florida, got better, added stuff to his game, but his measurables in his comps are very similar to Brandon Ayuk. 6'1", $190. Maybe he'll get a little bit bigger, but not physically imposing. Not the fastest guy, although combine 4.41, not mad at that. Not mad at that at all. What's his 3-cone drill? Well, it's 6.64, whatever the hell that means. Ricky Pearsall. How are we feeling about that, Niner fans? How are we feeling about everything that went down leading up to it? The pick, still not knowing if they're going to trade Ayuk or Deebo. I don't want to say it's a head scratcher, but if you're keeping all those other guys, if you're keeping Deebo and you're going to keep Ayuk, then it is a head scratcher. Because you needed help at offensive line, and I think the secondary could have used some help as well. They didn't want to trade up, or they couldn't find a partner to trade up. But here's Kyle Shanahan, the head coach, after the selection, talking about the draft pick of Pearsall.
I mean, he's got the 40 to still get on top of people on the outside, which where that starts a little bit. I mean, you just got to have a threat of that to scare guys in a go route. And if you can do that, you can separate on the other routes. But he can get out of his break very well. He's not huge, but he's still got a good body to where he can do inside or to any length of a corner. So, I mean, all of our receivers who play outside, they also play inside. So we kind of want a guy who can do it all.
They want a guy that can do it all. 888-957-9570. Can do it all. Pearsall. See there? Look at that. It's all coming together. From the 415 on the Xfinity mobile text line, he better be Cooper Kupp 2.0 and not River Craycraft. There you go. I love the draft. You haven't even seen the guy play, but we got to either give the comparison of Cooper Kupp or he's going to be River Craycraft. Although River Craycraft, measurable wise, he was 6 foot, $198. Makes sense. Miami Dolphins, River Craycraft, by the way, with Mike McDaniel. Again, nothing like it. We're going to talk about everything that took place in round one. The first few picks went about as planned. Obviously, Caleb Williams is going number 1 overall. The Bears weren't going to F that up. You got Jaden Daniels, number 2 overall. I don't think anyone was getting Adam Peters and Bob Myers away from that selection. They needed their guy, and they got their guy. New ownership, new everything. Dan Quinn there. They got Cliff Kingsbury, the offensive coordinator. It just makes sense. Then at number 3, people thought, maybe the Patriots, maybe they trade away from that pick. Maybe they surprise people and take J.J. McCarthy out of Michigan. No, they went with the smart pick, the high upside, the physical skill set of a Drake May out of North Carolina. I think you should sit the guy, let him learn. Still a raw talent. Well, that's what the smart people tell me. I watched some of his games last year for North Carolina. The skill is there. I mean, the Herbert comp is there. The guy kind of looks like Justin Herbert. Just look at his face. Guy looks like him. So I could see why New England would be infatuated with this guy. And for the first time in forever, maybe since Cam Newton, right? But even Cam, when he was a Patriot, kind of fell off a little bit, athleticism-wise. Drake May, greatest athletic quarterback in their history. All due respect to Jim Plunkett, Drew Bledsoe, and Tom Brady. Man. Marvin Harrison Jr. goes to Arizona 4 overall. I mean, Kyler's got his weapon. That's going to be scary hours for Niner secondary, which again, hope they address a little bit of that in this draft. Joe Alt going to the Chargers. That's just a Harbaugh pick. Number 5 overall. That's getting physical at the line of scrimmage. That is what Harbaugh does. Expect the Chargers to run the ball down their throat. I still expect them to take Blake Corum out of Michigan, Harbaugh's guy, and pair him with Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins, and have a 3-headed monster there. Oh yeah, by the way, you still have Justin Herbert as well. Then you got the Giants. They thought maybe J.J. McCarthy here, 6 overall. Go Malik Neighbors. Pairing him with Daniel Jones, Brian Daboll gets a huge weapon for that offense. Guy is explosive. Some were saying he was indeed the best wide receiver in the class. I still say Marvin Harrison. But Neighbors, not mad at it. 7 overall, you got the Titans taking J.C. Latham, offensive tackle at Alabama. Get some protection for Will Levis, second-year quarterback out of... Where did Will Levis? Oh, Ole Miss. Excuse me. No, Kentucky. Why did I think it was Ole Miss was... who was Ole Miss? It doesn't matter. Atlanta Falcons, number 8 overall. This is the one. I mean, this is the one where we're going to be playing these kind of drops all day. Like, what?
Crack, crack, crack.
Michael Penix?
Crack, crack, crack.
Michael Penix after you just gave Kirk Cousins $1 bajillion? Why?
When does that crack come into play for you?
I mean, I love Michael Penix. You guys know how much I loved him. I wanted the Raiders to get him. I did not expect him to go in the top 10. That was truly shocking to me. I don't get the selection. You're paying Kirk Cousins all this guaranteed money for the next couple of years. You do have an out after 2 years. But if you're planning to sit him, which is what Raheem Morris, the new head coach, and the GM of Atlanta were basically saying, like, yeah, we like the Green Bay method. Well, that's all well and good. By the time 2 years pass, Michael Penix is going to be 26. And then you'll just find out if he's any good. Then he'll take a year and then like, maybe he's not that good. Oh, so he'll get another year and then he's 27. Like, that one was just baffling to me and to everyone else watching it. The talent's clearly there. It's clearly there with Penix. The injuries are a concern, but now you got 2 quarterbacks who are coming off major injuries. Although Penix, 2 years removed from his last ACL injury, I get that. He's been healthy the last 2 seasons. I will give him that. But wow. Atlanta Falcons with that was crazy moment of the day. The Raiders are usually the ones doing that. They're usually taking someone that you've never heard of and being like, what the hell was that? This year, it's the Atlanta Falcons. Number 9 overall pick, the Bears after that, Rome Odunze. Then you got J.J. McCarthy to the Minnesota Vikings. That is where a lot of people were predicting him to go. So he goes to Minnesota. Kevin O'Connell gets a new quarterback, pairing up with Sam Darnold in that quarterback room. Jets, potentially Brock Bowers, something like that. No. Oh, you guys are putting me on the spot here. I heard it last night when he was doing the call. Olumuyiwa Fashanu. I'm just going to say Fashanu. I just saw the Fashanu's mom blocking out the girlfriend on the side. That was the technique that Fashanu had learned. It was from his mom blocking out the money grabber. And I'm not saying that. I'm just kidding here, people. But that's just... And basically, that's what Twitter was insinuating. And we know Twitter during draft day is undefeated. Sorry, X, formerly Twitter. Then you got Bo Nix, maybe the reach of the night. Denver Broncos taking Bo Nix, 12 overall. It's that or Penix for me. Penix, listen, talent-wise, I do think he is worthy of a top 10 pick. The Kirk Cousins deal makes it so baffling. Cousins signed a 4-year, $180 million deal in March. He's coming off a torn Achilles. That one. So I'm just going back to it. I don't get it. But Bo Nix, he goes to Sean Payton in Denver. And did you guys hear what they were saying about Sean Payton, what he thinks about Bo Nix? He feels the same way he did about Patrick Mahomes being a sure thing. The same way he feels about Bo Nix. The same way he felt about Patrick Mahomes. He feels about Bo Nix. Don't you ever put Patrick Mahomes and Bo Nix in the same sentence ever again. I'm just going to leave it at that. God. And then the Raiders, they actually do something that the Raiders don't usually do. They took Brock Bowers. Brock freaking Bowers. Some might say the best player in all of college football. So the Raiders actually do something un-Raider-like. They take the best player available. A guy I've actually heard of. Look at that. And now they've actually got a legit loaded room when it comes to the tight end, when it comes to the wide receiver. You got Bowers to pair with Michael Mayer, second-round pick last year out of Notre Dame. Guy was a first-round talent, fell to the second round. So you got a two-headed monster there with two tight end sets. That's a matchup nightmare in a place where the Raiders have struggled in, specifically the red zone. Then you got Devontae Adams, you got Jacoby Myers. We'll wait and see what goes on going forward here in this draft. But it wasn't a need, quote-unquote, but it was the best player available, and I can't fault them for doing that. Would have I liked Michael Penix? Yes. Didn't anticipate the Falcons taking him there. And I don't see Antonio Pierce and Tom Telesco, a guy who's never traded in the first round, or at least traded up, I should say, taking Penix and trading up that high with a team like Tennessee or New York. Just not seeing that happening there. Then you got Fuaga to New Orleans, offensive tackle out of Oregon State. You got Latu, the edge rusher out of UCLA, going to the Indianapolis Colts. The Seattle Seahawks, so we're going NFC West here, see what the Niners are going to be going up against. Byron Murphy, best defensive tackle in this draft. Many are saying wasn't even a clear-cut number two. It was just such a huge gap for Byron Murphy and the next guy below that list. So Byron Murphy going to Seattle. They're beefing up that defense for new head coach and former defensive coordinator Mike McDonald. Then you got Dallas Turner, the edge out of Alabama, going to the Minnesota Vikings, who traded up with Jacksonville. And remember, we thought Jacksonville could be a spot for Brandon Ayuk. Not the case. Then you got the Bengals addressing their offensive line. Amarius Mims, you got to protect Joe Burrow. Guy's a monster. His family, by the way, all just massive human beings. So goes without saying that family is just in the blood. 6'8", 340 pounds, Amarius Mims. My God. Guy could play in the NBA if he wanted to. And the Lakers could use him. They're down 3-0. Night. We could have seen that coming. Number 19 pick overall, the Los Angeles Rams. Yes, the Rams. Sammy, did you know this? First time since drafting Jared Goff in the first round, the Rams are selecting. That's 8 years ago. 8 freaking years in between first round picks for the Los Angeles Rams. That is unbelievable. They take Jared Verse, edge rusher out of Florida State. He's a baller. Again, no Aaron Donald. They had to go defense. That's what I was saying yesterday. The smoke screen that they were trying to trade up for Brock Bowers, didn't really believe that. They needed help on the defense, and they got it. Then you got the Steelers taking Fautanu. Hey, that's a steal for them. He was supposed to be like a top 10, top 15 guy. He's a beast protecting Penix on that O-line last year for Washington. So Steelers get him. Again, Steelers, another one of those places we thought Ayuk could potentially be traded to. Doesn't look like that's happening. Dolphins go edge rusher. They get Chop Robinson. Had to replace Christian Wilkins, who was signed with the Raiders. Obviously not the same position, but they needed some help there on the defensive line. And then the Eagles. This guy just fell in their laps. Quinyon Mitchell, cornerback out of Toledo. Many thought was the top corner in this draft, falls all the way down to 22. And the Philadelphia bleeping Eagles get him. And oh, by the way, they re-signed A.J. Brown to make him the highest paid wide receiver in the NFL on an extension. So the rich get richer in Philadelphia. Jacksonville Jaguars. They obviously made the trade. They select Brian Thomas Jr. Again, another guy that was linked to the 49ers, but goes to Jacksonville. Detroit Lions, they take Terry and Arnold. They train up with Dallas and take the second highest graded cornerback from Alabama, Terry and Arnold. Although it was interesting listening to Nick Saban pregame basically saying Kool-Aid McKinstry has more natural and instinctive ability in the secondary than Terrion Arnold, who worked hard. He's a hard worker, very smart player. But Nick Saban, I think, the way he was talking about it, and maybe he was just trying to boost Kool-Aid's draft value before, that could be it. But Kool-Aid could be a steal potentially here in the top of the second. Some teams are going to be trading after him. There's a lot of players, great players still available, specifically at the wide receiver position that we'll find out here shortly. So you got the Green Bay Packers taking offensive tackle, Jordan Morgan at Arizona, Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking a center, Graham Barton, Arizona Cardinals taking Darius Robinson, defensive edge out of Missouri. So they get Marvin Harrison on the offense. Then they go defense for Jonathan Gannon. And they're trying to bolster that. You're sensing a theme here. They have to deal with an offensive juggernaut and Kyle Shanahan, Christian McCaffrey, and Brock Purdy in the NFC West. Yeah, you need to load up on defense and try to stop them there. You're not going to outshoot them in a shootout. It's just not happening. So you got to stop them. That's what you saw Kansas City do. So the teams in the NFC West will try to do as well. And speaking of the team, I just mentioned them, Kansas City. And why are you doing this, Buffalo? Like, what? Buffalo trading back with why are you making a trade with this team if you're Buffalo? So Buffalo trades back all the way to, well, they trade out of the first round because they trade back to 32, and then they trade back even more because Carolina Panthers trade back up. So they trade themselves out of the first round. Buffalo is probably going to try to double dip and get a couple wide receivers here to make up for the loss of Diggs and try to get some weapons around Josh Allen. But they trade with Kansas City, trades up to 28. And who do they take? Oh, just the fastest guy in the history of the combine. Xavier Worthy out of Texas. 4.21 speed. Yeah, you thought you were done with Tyreek Hill in Kansas City? Well, they just got a guy who can run just as fast, if not faster. That is sick. It is disgusting. I hate it. And the Chiefs are probably going to three-peat. The Chiefs are... They're inevitable. They already got Marquise Hollywood Brown. They already got Mr. Swift, Travis Kelce, who, by the way, I guess last week, and they're hanging out in Carmel. You hear that, Sammy? Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce, and I believe Bradley Cooper all hanging out in the Monterey Peninsula. I was there last weekend as well. I mean, maybe we could have just walked past each other. I didn't even know it. Maybe. Yeah, probably not. But the rich get richer in Kansas City. Dallas, they take an offensive tackle. Well, smart pick from Dallas. Oklahoma, Tyler Guyton. Oklahoma offensive lineman, always a smart pick. Like taking a Penn State linebacker or a wide receiver from LSU. It's just smart business. Then you got the Ravens addressing the cornerback position as well. They took Nate, don't call him Andrew Wiggins, out of Clemson. And then the Niners, 31st overall. Ricky Pearsall, Florida, wide receiver. 888-957-9570. Basically running out through the draft there as the Carolina Panthers rounded out after they traded with the Buffalo Bills for that 32nd pick, drafting Xavier Leggett out of South Carolina. So he stays in the Carolinas and is going to play with Bryce Young and be his number one wide receiver there. So a wild first round in the NFL. 888-957-9570. How we feeling, Niner fans, right now? Because there's part of me that gets what Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch are trying to do. I get that you're trying to get out ahead, potentially, of Deebo Samuel, right? But I'm just looking at what they have in front of them right now. They have a chance, and they have a very small window of opportunity now in this next year, because I believe this window is closing after this season, to win a Super Bowl. You're going to have to pay Brock Purdy next year, and there's going to be ramifications with that. There just is. There always is. And is Brock Purdy going to be that guy to be able to elevate lesser talent around him? That remains to be seen. He's only had elite talent around him. He's never had lesser talent around him. Now, you could say, Spadoni, that goes for anyone. You're not winning with bad players around them. It's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying the Peyton Mannings of the world, the Tom Brady's of the world, right? CJ Stroud last year of the world, elevating lesser talent around them. That is what is expected of the cream of the crop quarterbacks. So I get trying to jump out ahead of that and getting a guy like Pearsall, who you believe is Ayuk light. Similar stature, similar size, similar route running abilities. I'm looking right now, Bucky Brooks, NFL Network. He's a route runner extraordinaire. Let's go out to Rodney in San Jose. He wants to talk about the NFL draft. 888-957-9570. It can be Niners related. It doesn't have to be. Just your overall thoughts. It's the draft, baby. I could talk Penix. I could talk Drake May, Jaden Daniels. All these guys. 888-957-9570. Michael Penix. That's the one, though, where everyone's going to be talking about, wow, gave Kirk Cousins all that money and that? All right. Rodney, what's going on, man? You're on the pregame show, Joe Spadoni, on a Phil Collins Friday. What's up, man?
Hey, first of all, I think it was a while. To me, it was one of the most anticipated drafts maybe ever, with the most deepest quarterback draft. Okay.
Great, Rodney, real quick. 6 quarterbacks in the first 12 picks. 6. Isn't that nuts?
You can say goodbye to 2 or 3 of them because they'll probably be average. If you go by history, because you go back to 1983, which is the best quarterbacks of all time. But this one here, yes, it has potential to be, okay, but the odds are not good. You go to the 2020 draft, now you look at those quarterbacks, 5 of them, all the way from the second round, 5 of them went to the Pro Bowl. It's going to be pretty hard to repeat that. I can tell you that right now. And the second thing is, when the Raiders took Brock Bowers, everybody scratched their head. You do not, I repeat, you do not pass up on the best player on the board, period. Okay? Even if you have one, you don't. This guy, if what they say is true, once a generation, you don't pass up those guys. And I personally myself, I think, yes, we drafted Mayer last year. The Raiders did, yes. Now I got 2 tight ends. Probably the best tandem tight ends in the NFL right now without stepping a field on the field. But this guy is unbelievable. Go look at his tape.
No, he is.
All he has to do is look at his tape and don't just sit there and watch it and go in awe. Okay, because that's what you do. Your mouth is going to drop.
It's a great point, Rodney, and I appreciate you calling in, Rod. That's Rodney out in San Jose. Excuse me, 888-957-9570. All your draft thoughts right here on the pregame show, Joe Spadoni. Please, 888-957-9570. It's just 6 quarterbacks taken. And to his point about Brock Bowers, you can make the argument, and I don't even think it's a hard one to make. He was the best player in college football the last few years. He was that freaking good. And for my entire lifetime, being a Raider fan, I have just known heartbreak and heartache on draft day, specifically in the first round. So it was refreshing to actually have a GM in Tom Telesco, first year at the Raiders, long time with the Chargers, make a best player available pick. It wasn't an area of need, but you know what? You can't pass up on a talent like that that's just falling into your lap. You just can't. Now, who's going to be their quarterback? Well, probably going to be Aiden O'Connell or Gardner Minshew, which does not instill a lot of confidence there, although Gardner Minshew did almost take the Colts to the playoffs last year. So I'm a little higher on him than maybe others are, but he's kind of a bridge quarterback, backup kind of a guy. That's what they're paying him for, 2 years, $25 million. Can they draft a Spencer Rattler here potentially? Maybe. He'd be the only guy left really that I would say could consider, maybe starting some games next year for the Raiders, but I don't even see them doing that. I think they're going to go in on offensive line, cornerbacks, what have you, but I agree with Rodney in San Jose. I agree with him. You take the best player available. If the need wasn't there, take it. I'm not mad at it. 888-957-9570. By the way, pride of Napa, California, where the Oakland Raiders used to practice, Brock Bowers would visit their training camps out there in Napa, California, and actually has a signed autographed picture of Derek Carr that he got there. There you go. It's worthless, but it's a nice memory. 888-957-9570. We're up against it. More of your calls, more of your text. Ricky Pearsall goes to the 49ers, wide receiver out of Florida. What does that mean for Deebo Samuel or Brandon Ayuk? We'll discuss that. Plus Michael Penix to the Falcons. What? 888-957-9570. It's the pregame show, Joe Spadoni, on a payday, Phil Collins, and draft day Friday.
That's BS, man.
At Shane Company, we believe everyone deserves a personal jeweler. A friend to guide you, to help you find jewelry that feels like it was made just for you. Or a gift that will spark joy for that special someone.
took a pop at the 30-yard line. There's a flag for that. Unbelievable catch.
Oh, number one set it up so nice, too. He knew he was going up with one hand the entire time. When the ball was a little high, one jumps up there and snags it.
It's a Phil Collins Friday here. Pregame show, Joe Spadoni. It's a payday Friday. It's an NFL Round 1 draft Friday. I still can't get over the Penix pick. I just can't. I don't know what the Falcons are doing. Taking him number 8 overall when he signed Kirk Cousins to that deal. That's a head scratcher. Bo Nix, 12th overall. I mean, you guys have heard me say it. You're not in college for 7 years unless you're a doctor. I mean, that was from Tommy Boy. Come on. You know, a lot of people go to college for 7 years. Yeah, they're called doctors. Come on. R.I.P. Chris Farley. Miss that man. 6 quarterbacks in the first 12 picks. The first 13 picks. Let me count it right now. I have the whole... until we get our first defensive player. It took the 15th pick to get the first player to be selected on defense. And that was Latu out of UCLA. Guy's a beast, by the way. Colts just got a monster. But that's kind of speaking to the nature of the beast right now. You have got to produce on offense if you are going to win in this league. It is an offensive-driven league. Now, defense still wins championships. It still does. To an extent. To an extent. You know, it helps when you have a Patrick Mahomes, though, to go along with an all-time defense led by Steve Spagnuolo. It helps when you have a Travis Kelce. And when you hit on a rookie like a Rashee Rice and an Isaiah Pacheco, it resets things. So the 49ers drafting Ricky Pearsall, as we heard the highlight coming in there, Florida Gators radio. You know, I understand trying to reset things and keeping it going. But at the cost of potentially Deebo Samuel, who kind of is that spark plug on offense. And if you replace him with a Pearsall, I mean, you're kind of getting redundant at the wide receiver position. Now, they're both elite route runners. New England got away with it for a very long time. Is Brock Purdy going to be Tom Brady? Well, he was an MVP candidate last year. So if we're just judging off what we have seen from Brock Purdy, he is an elite quarterback. So can he produce the way like Tom Brady did with a Julian Edelman and a Chris Hogan or a Danny Amendola, if that's what they're looking to do here with Pearsall and Ayuk? Okay, maybe. And I say Brandon Ayuk, I'm not sure if Julian Edelman was ever a all-pro. I got to look that up. Maybe 1 year. But Ayuk is coming off a all-pro season. No, he wasn't. Edelman? And we think of Edelman in clutch situations, the playoffs more so than his regular season. But he was a damn good wide receiver for a long time. Redwood City's own. Didn't even make a Pro Bowl. Wow. It's actually kind of surprising. People were talking about him for the Hall of Fame. It's solely based on playoff stats, but that's what I'm kind of getting at here. This is setting up for Brock Purdy's contract. And Deebo hasn't been dealt yet. Brandon Ayuk hasn't been dealt yet. But I'm anticipating a Deebo Samuel trade. Again, if you're just joining us here on the pregame show, Joe Spadoni, 888-957-9570. Niners go wide receiver with their 31st pick, drafting Ricky Pearsall, wide receiver out of Florida, formerly of ASU, played with Brandon Ayuk there with the Herm Edwards, Antonio Pierce staff. But Michael Silver of the San Francisco Chronicle reporting that the 49ers are now more likely to trade Deebo Samuel than they are Brandon Ayuk. So, again, this is the window for the 49ers to win the Super Bowl. And I just feel if you're moving off Deebo Samuel, you're playing with a lot of fire. I know he's been hurt. I know his game is not going to age as well as a Brandon Ayuk because it's predicated on physicality and explosion more so than Ayuk and Pearsall. But that's what makes this offense so dynamic. And you could say, yeah, Spadoni, it's McCaffrey and then it's everyone else. And that's true. You know, McCaffrey is the bus driver of this offense. He makes everything go, I should say. He is that dude. Deebo Samuel's an all-pro. Is Pearsall going to be? I don't know. Oreo Cookie, 510. What's going on, bro? You're on the pregame show, Joe Spadoni.
Hey, what's up, man? Just last night's pick was a little bit puzzling, but I'm trying to just stay positive. The comp is another Brandon Ayuk. Now, I would not mind having two Brandon Ayuks on the team because the highlights that I saw a lot of separation. Now, the guy that should be a little bit nervous is Deebo. He's got just 1 year left with us, I believe. Next year, it's up for grabs. But I just got to stay optimistic. And these guys do whiff a lot in the first round. So let's see what happens the second, third, fourth, and the rest of the rounds because that's where they find their gems.
That's Oreo Cookie in the 510. Thanks, Oreo. You can go for some Oreo cookies right now. 888-957-9570. Weigh in on your draft thoughts, round one, from the Xfinity mobile text line. 209, they're wanting to get younger and cheaper to pay not only Brock, but Ayuk as well. I believe Deebo's injuries are his downfall. And I think that's, an accurate take. The injuries are a concern with Deebo, and how his game ages is a major question mark. Ayuk's game will age far better. I mean, look at a guy like a Larry Fitzgerald. And this was the conversation last night with Marvin Harrison Jr. and Malik Neighbors. Marvin Harrison Jr. is in that Larry Fitzgerald type. And funny enough, he's going to the Arizona Cardinals. Elite route running. Big, fast, strong, just does everything well, is the consummate professional. He is that guy. Malik Neighbors is that X factor, that wild card that bursts onto the scene. He's fast, he's strong, explosive. He's also a little undersized. And he has to overcompensate a little, like a Deebo Samuel. Give me the more of a sure thing when it comes to the route running ability that'll age way better than the physical tools. At least for the long haul. Again, look at Marvin Harrison Jr.'s father. Marvin Harrison Sr. His game wasn't predicated on physicality. What was his game predicated on? Route running and getting open. And that guy got open every single time, despite being, what was he, like 5'11"? He's undersized. He's one of the coldest wide receivers in the history of the NFL, Marvin Harrison. Mainly because the guy never spoke and was frightening with that mustache. But is that what the 49ers are hoping to do? Have two Ayuks and open things up in the middle of the field is where Kyle Shanahan likes to target, the middle of that field. And you got to have elite route runners doing that. And far too often I'm seeing either Deebo or Brock late, and he's getting popped in the middle. He's getting hurt. Now, not as many medicine balls. That was Jimmy Garoppolo's specialty, but it is a question mark. And it's something we weren't anticipating 24 hours ago. The conversations were, is it going to be, Deebo Samuel or Brandon Ayuk? Well, it was Brandon Ayuk yesterday. And now it's shifting over to Deebo Samuel more likely getting traded. And again, Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, speaking to the media yesterday after the pick, have not closed the door on potential trades. They are not doing that. So it's still a lot to happen here this weekend as it pertains to the NFL draft. Round 2 tonight, 888-957-9570. Are you hoping for another pick? And how are we feeling about Ricky Pearsall, wide receiver out of Florida? 888-957-9570. The pregame show rolls on the other side before handing it off to the morning roast at 95.7 The Game.
Now it's time for the closer of the week. Presented by LiftMaster and R&S Doors. Turn your garage into the envy of the neighborhood. Visit rsdoors.com.
This week's closer comes from